rows of tall hedges, smooth cypress trees, and lavender lilac bushes that turned the air heavy and sweet. Megan lived in a gray house, and as she walked along the uncracked sidewalks, past manicured shrubs and emerald lawns, she had to laugh at herself for somehow ending up in the exact kind of place a younger version of herself swore she'd never end up. Part of her still didn't find it all that funny. After they'd moved to Willow Ridge, Tyler had tried to convince her that she'd eventually get used to it, but she never did. She missed her old neighborhood with its corner markets and constant traffic. She missed the hum of people around her and the warm concrete buzz of the city. Willow Ridge was too impersonal, too sterile. She felt the change most at the market in the plaza. It was easily the largest market Megan had ever seen. The aisles were always well-stocked, and so long that if you stood at one end and looked down toward the other, the perspective became skewed, making it look fake, like you were staring into a painting. It was unsettling. There was a smaller store in Ashland, 11 miles north, and for a while Megan had driven there to shop. But they didn't carry much, and the people running the store didn't seem to want her there. They were always polite, always helpful, but she could see the way they looked at her when she came in, and how they watched her when they thought she wasn't paying attention. Megan tried not to let it bother her. She understood that Ashland was a small town and that she was an outsider, but after a while she grew tired of the stares and the whispers, and eventually she quit going. That left the market in the plaza. Once inside, she paced the aisles with the other shoppers, all of them quietly pushing metal carts along polished floors while familiar melodies floated softly in the air overhead. And always, whenever two shoppers passed each other, they would smile and nod and keep moving. Megan didn't get it. When someone passed her in the aisles, she kept her head down and did her best to avoid eye contact. That seemed easier. Once she'd found all the items on her list, she made her way to the checkout lanes at the front of the store. The clerk working the register looked like a grad student, attractive in a sullen sort of way, with green eyes and impeccably tousled dark hair. Megan smiled and handed him a canvas bag. The clerk stared at it for a moment, and when he finally took the bag, he held it in front of him like it was something dirty. "I take it you don't see many of those?" "My first." Megan held up 3 fingers. "Always be prepared." The clerk tilted his head, slightly, like a puppy. "Boy Scout salute?" She paused. "Forget it." He did. Megan kept quiet as he rang up the steaks and the peppers and the Jell-O. He stopped when he reached the wine, turning the bottle over and reading the label. "Have you tried that one?" she asked. "I thought it looked good, but who can tell?" The clerk shook his head. "My husband and I are celebrating tonight," she said. "We're taking a trip at the end of the month." She waited for him to respond, but he just slipped the wine into a brown paper sack and set it in the canvas bag. Then he reached for the marshmallows. "Chicago." He glanced up. "It's where we're from," Megan said. "Where I'm from, at least. My husband is from Texas, if you can imagine." The clerk tapped a button on the register and gave her a price. She paid and watched as he tore the receipt away and handed it to her along with the now heavy canvas bag. He smiled. "Come again, ma'am." Megan's throat tightened. She started to say something, but instead she shouldered her purse, shifted the bag from one hand to the other, and headed for the door. She didn't look back. It was the first time anyone had called her ma'am and meant it. She tried telling herself that it didn't matter, but she knew, on some level, it kind of did. The trip home took longer with the groceries in tow. Part of her regretted not driving, but it was a small part. The day was warm and soft, and as she walked, she could see the Institute at the top of the ridge, the long stretch of buildings